Hello and welcome to Spotlight. I am JC Crisologo, lest I forget that part. And today is the moment that you have been waiting for because I have been teasing you guys on Facebook because everybody kept on asking me on Facebook, how was the movie? How was the movie? How was the movie? Well, The Exorcist Believer was something else, and I didn't want to share my reaction on Facebook because I didn't want you guys to miss my review and my reaction. And now here it is. So first and foremost is that this show is directed by David Gordon Green, and David Gordon Green is known for the sequels to the Halloween movies. I know that the Halloween movies spawned other Halloween movies, and then there was a three-part sequel created by David Gordon Green, so it's known for that, and produced by Jason Blum, James G. Robinson, David C. Robinson, and the production companies are Blumhouse Production, Morgan Creek Production Entertainment, and Rough House Pictures. Now, this is a legacy film in the sense that they bought the rights to the original Exorcist by William Blatty, the original Exorcist, which was shown in 1973 to a worldwide success. And 50 years later, Exorcist, the original movie, is still a phenomena, and each person from each generation who is a hardcore horror fan still watches The Exorcist. I'm trying to persuade the lady behind the camera, the director, to watch the original Exorcist with me. Maybe one of these nights, who knows. So, for those of you who want to know, is it scary? Is it not scary? Or does it have a good story? Does it have, or is not a good story? Well, you guys have to see it yourself. But this is my reaction to this movie, and the premise of the story is there were two girls who went to the woods, and one of the girls, her mother died, and so she wanted to go to the middle of the woods with her friend because she believed that her friend was some kind of a spiritist. And so just remember that these are two young, two underage girls that went to the middle of the woods. And so they went there and tried to contact the dead. But as the true Exorcist story goes, and this format was already made before, and like I said, it happened in the original Exorcist, with the difference being that in the original Exorcist, Reagan, the name of Linda Blair's character, was talking to a spirit via Ouija board. And in these horror movies, they always teach you that when you communicate with the dead, when you try to communicate with a loved one, chances are your real loved one, who is now resting, will not be the one to respond to you. It might be another spirit that you won't like that will respond to you. And the outcome will not be nice and sweet. So, for those of you, so this is the reason why these movies are made, whether you believe in the paranormal, supernatural or not, or whether you're an atheist or a believer, it tries to, well, it tells us that this is a cautionary tale. A cautionary tale. So please proceed with caution if you're trying to play with a Ouija board, or you're trying to communicate with the dead, or it has been shown in Annabelle before. And for that factor alone, I mean, I really like this movie because it's showing you that don't play with the unknown, because you'll never know what's gonna come back with you. You'll never know who you'll be communicating with, and that spirit whom you are communicating with, which is incidentally a deceitful spirit, might latch onto you, and you'll bring it to your home. So that's the premise of the story. In terms of the scare factor, here we go. To me, it was a little bit scary. There were a lot of jump scares. And for those of you who love jump scares, then, you'll like this movie. And some of the critics who I've heard before watching this movie were kind of right, but I still wanted to make my own assessment about this movie, and that's what I'm gonna tell you guys. Please don't take my word for it. Please go out there and watch this movie and make your own assessment. Don't be persuaded by other people that will tell you, oh, I don't want you to see this movie, oh, it's not worth your money. I believe that each of us have our own personal experiences when we watch a movie. It could be possible that if you watch this movie, you're gonna love this movie and say, oh my goodness, I love this movie. And one person will say, oh, I think this movie, that is a tiny piece of crap. That type of reaction. So yes, I mean, and other movies are, oh no, why am I talking about other movies when we want to talk about this movie, the Exorcist Believer. So I noticed that it's a more updated take of The Exorcist, since in this part, well, it's a sequel. It's supposed to be a sequel, obviously. They kind of brought a lot of beliefs in. I guess they didn't want to offend the other religions, but to me it was more effective in the original Exorcist when they only involved the Catholic Church in this. And I once again, I just make it clear that I'm not just advocating, one religion, because Exorcist does not only exist in the Catholic realm. I bet it exists in other religions and beliefs as well. But to me, as a horror fan, it was, for some reason, I know this is maybe a bad negative thing to say, it was more effective when just that one Catholic priest came with his assistant priest came and exorcised the little girl that was demon possessed. It was pure, it was simple, but horrifying and really, really super, super, super duper scary. So yeah, you should watch this movie. Don't just take my word for it. I liked it. I wasn't too crazy about it. And like I said, it really was not that scary. And maybe for some people who are not really horror movie fans, then you'll be scared. I heard about one person told me that, one lady told me that her daughter was scared watching this one. Well, obviously, She probably hasn't seen the other scarier horror movies, but for us, like older people who are hardcore horror junkies, we will tell you like, I mean, it's okay, and some of the scenes were a little bit disgusting. And of course, one thing that I noticed about this movie, there was like a Sophie's Choice element to this movie. For those of you who don't know Sophie's Choice, it was an old movie by Meryl Streep, and the story is that she was Jewish and Jewish Holocaust, and they made her pick who amongst her children were going to be gassed or be taken to the oven, and that's why it's called Sophie's Choice, because she had to make a choice between this child or that child to be. So there was that element of Sophie's Choice to it. And but what I did like about this movie is that as a believer, it kind of shows you, it reveals to you the heart of evil, like the heart of Satan, that he uses everything from your broken past. He uses everything that's about your weakness to launch an attack on you and to disqualify you from having that relationship from God. Or if you're a woman and you're trying to be a nun, like he'll do everything that he could in his power to disqualify you and to dishonor you and condemn you, use your past against you. Or a priest, he'll use anything in your life to disqualify you. And that played really well in this movie for that that emotional part of the story where it kind of grabs your heart, and that I love, because like I said in the past, that I always like movies that'll grab your heart and touch you, and that will make you empathize with the main characters. And on that note, I will be back with the last segment, but don't go away, because the best is yet to come. So I will be right back.
Now on digital and DVD. Space Wars: Quest for the Deep Star is an epic sci-fi adventure.
Do what needs to be done.
An edge of your seat wild ride.
We're company.
Tons of popcorn munching fun. 5 stars. A love letter to the sci-fi films of the 70s and 80s. With plenty of action and fun for all. You need to see it. You really do.
Captain just decided it's time to go.
I am ready for a sequel. Experience a bold new adventure. Space Wars: Quest for the Deep Star.
A good old-fashioned adventure.
Traditional TV is going away. Hollywood is starting to fade. People are demanding real stories from real people. Our voices are now being heard in our own way. Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok Live are becoming the norm. Internet TV has now reached the highest demand in human history. Social media shows is now the new media of the century.
Welcome back to the last segment of Spotlight, and I am JC Crisologo. And for those of you guys who have missed the first segment of this show, I was talking about the Exorcist Believer, and it's now showing out in theaters, and I saw it last Friday night. And people are asking me, my reaction towards, this movie. But before I go any further, I would just like to say hello to all the people that are watching, and thank you for watching Spotlight, and thank you for watching the movie reviews, and thank you to everyone, particularly thank you to Puresa, who is behind the camera, the director, producer of the show, and thank you to the Social Media Shows Network. There you go. And now to continue on with my reaction about The Exorcist Believer. Now, like I said, this is a legacy movie because they bought the rights to the original Exorcist, and because they bought the rights to The Exorcist, they wanted some of the original cast of The Exorcist to be involved in this movie as well. And by the way, this movie isn't just a one-time movie. They ambitiously are making two other sequels, so there's going to be a second part, which I believe it's called The Exorcist Deceiver. That's going to be the second movie. I don't know what the name of the third movie will be like. A lot of people are criticizing the director David Gordon Green, and a lot of people are saying that David Gordon Green should not have any right in making any horror movies, and people are saying that he ruined the Halloween movies because he did the last three Halloween movies as well. And so I think he's a decent director, but the only thing that I could say is he needs to ramp it up just a little bit and make it just a little bit more frightening, because that's what horror fans are looking for, a little bit more horror. And like what my other friends would say, they want to make the story valid. It should have a sense of validity. And so now my highlight for this last segment is Ellen Burstyn. So Ellen Burstyn was in the original Exorcist movie, and she played Chris. She plays the mother of the demon-possessed girl Reagan, who in the original, as we all know, is Linda Blair. And Linda Blair became the most iconic child actress back in the day because of this movie. It's funny that this movie, Exorcist, defined who she was, defined who her childhood, because no matter how many movies Linda Blair did after The Exorcist, she was only remembered for The Exorcist. So going back to Ellen Burstyn plays the mom of Reagan in 1973. And then in the story of this movie, they invited Ellen Burstyn again to play her original character in the original Exorcist as Chris. And in this movie, because of the experience that she had in the past with her demon-possessed daughter, she authored a book about her experience, the demon possession. And it says in this movie, or they showed it in this movie, that she and her daughter has a rift because Reagan resented her mom for creating a book about her, one of the most tragic moments of her life, and made some money out of it, by writing a story about, of course, to get it straight, it's not a true story. This is the story in the movie. So anyhow, so that is the reason why Ellen Burstyn is in this movie, because the father of one of the demon possessed girls had to reach out to her, because in the beginning of this movie, the father did not believe at all in demon possession. He didn't believe in the supernatural. He didn't believe in the paranormal. But one of the major characters in the movie who had an encounter with the demon behind his daughter was able to persuade him. And I don't want to tell you guys how he got persuaded to become a believer in the supernatural and paranormal. You guys have to see this movie and see how it plays out. I mean, like I said, in terms of the emotional aspect in this movie, it's really an emotional grabber. And in terms of the scare factor, it's like, okay, yeah, it was like I was watching a paranormal movie or a TV series. I think that some of the TV series are even more frightening. I got more frightened with Evil Dead, and I got more frightened with The Voyage of the Demeter. Oh my goodness, those are really, if you want to be scared out of your daylights, you watch those movies, because you'll be running for the hills and like hiding. And so I know for a fact that Ellen Burstyn didn't want to come back to this movie, and didn't think that it was not worth her while for coming back to this movie. As a matter of fact, she declined this movie 3 times. They gave her the script 3 times. She read it. She didn't like it. And the only time that she came back is when they convinced her, really convinced her, talk about a hard sell, and that they doubled her salary. So Ellen Burstyn said, okay, fine, I'm going to give the money to my charity. So that's the only reason why she was in it. I was a little bit disappointed in what they did to her in the movie, because in the beginning, in the first few minutes, I liked seeing her, as the strong, seasoned woman who has experienced that demonic encounter in the past. And then in the middle of her scenes in that movie, you're like, is that the only reason why they used her? It's almost like they used her as a bait so that other people who've seen the original Exorcist would come flooding to the theaters and see this movie. But anyhow, I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, because as much as I say that I was not scared about this movie, I liked it. I actually liked it. And I am curious to know what they're going to do with the second movie. I'm always curious. I'm always when I used to watch movies back in the day, my mom would say, "Why do you like watching these types of movies?" And yeah, why are you in the mood for these movies? And I would always tell her, "Ma, I want to know how it will end." So that was my rationale behind, my arguments with my mom, who was always monitoring me and my movies, and she would always tell me exact words, and I kid you not, "It's a vexation of the soul." She would always tell me that I was so disturbed because I was attracted to these movies. And so now I would watch. Well, obviously my mom isn't here anymore. She's somewhere up in heaven. But I'm free to watch those movies. But I still miss her. So anyhow. Yeah, Mom, I could hear you from the beyond telling me, "Stop, stop, stop, stop watching those movies. Your soul is so vexed. There's something wrong with your soul." Yeah, those things attract you. Because I'm a sucker for a happy ending, and hopefully some of these movies have a happy ending. Some of them, they don't have any happy ending, like this movie has a cliffhanger ending. And so that was it for my movie reaction of the Exorcist, and now I am willing to answer all your questions. I'm going to take your questions one by one by one. And don't forget, if you're on a diet unlike me, always eat your celery, because it's the vegetable that eats you in return, and you'll have a phenomenal figure. See you next week. Bye.